My name is Natalie Brooks. I am 29 years old. 72 hours before my wedding, my father called at 9:47 on a Thursday night. I was folding programs in my living room, creases sharp, playlist on low, when his name lit up my phone. I answered on the second ring because I still had hope then. 7 words. That is all it took. I can't walk you down the aisle. I set the program I was holding on the coffee table. The crease was perfect. I had folded 186 of them. I said nothing for maybe 8 seconds, which does not sound long until you are the one holding a phone that suddenly weighs 10 pounds.
Your sister needs me that day, he said.
Rebecca, 2 years younger, married for 4 years, 2 kids, and apparently still the axis around which every family decision rotates, including mine. She is struggling right now, Natalie. You know that. I need to be there for her. I did know, but this was my wedding day, not hers. 12 hours later, my mother called to finish the job. It is just one day, Natalie. You will be fine. Brides walk alone all the time now. It is very modern. She said modern like she was reading it off a Pinterest board. 48 hours later, 175 guests would watch those chapel doors open. And the man holding my arm would not be my father, but he would be the man who showed up. Welcome back to Midnight Drama Stories. This is where we share real stories about family, boundaries, and the people who choose you when blood fails. Drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. I read every single one. Now let me take you back. I grew up in Ashford, Oregon. Tree-lined streets, farmers markets on Saturdays, the kind of town where everyone waves but no one really sees you. Rebecca was the shining one, debate captain, homecoming queen, the daughter my parents introduced first at every gathering. This is Rebecca. She is going places. I was the one who came home with charcoal on my fingers. I started drawing when I was 11. Portraits mostly. Pencil, then ink, then watercolor. I turned the garden shed into a studio when I was 15. My dad helped me hang drywall. That was the last project we did together. When I was 16, I entered a regional art competition. 3 months of work. A portrait series called Invisible. 6 drawings of people no one looks at. A janitor. A bus driver. A grocery bagger. I won first place. $500 scholarship and a feature in the county paper. The award ceremony was on a Saturday at 2 o'clock. Rebecca had a college campus tour at the same time. 3 hours away. My parents went with her. My art teacher, Mrs. Holloway, accepted the award for me. She texted me a photo. The ribbon.
The check.
The empty seat where my parents should have been. When Dad got home that night, he glanced at the ribbon on the kitchen counter. Oh, you won? That is great, kiddo. Then he asked Rebecca about the dorms at University of Portland. The shed stayed my studio for 8 years. I repainted it twice. Fixed the door 3 times. My mom called it an eyesore. My dad called it nothing. He stopped asking about my art after that summer. My high school graduation was on a Thursday in June. That same week, Rebecca got engaged to Colin Matthews. Lawyer. Family money. The kind of guy who wears a watch that costs more than my first car. My parents threw an engagement party that weekend.
60 people. Catered.
String lights in the backyard. 3 toasts. All about Rebecca and Colin and their beautiful future. I graduated with honors and a full scholarship to Pacific Northwest College of Art in Portland. I paid my application fees from commission work. Portrait drawings for neighbors at $60 each. When I told my mom about the scholarship, she was folding laundry. She did not look up. Art school is not a real career, Natalie. For words. She said them once to my face, and apparently many more times behind my back. Rebecca's wedding cost $40,000. My parents paid every cent. I know the number because my mother mentioned it at Thanksgiving like it was a charitable donation. My tuition, I covered myself. Commissions. A campus work-study. Loans for the rest. Nobody announced my balance at Christmas dinner. Rebecca, I had 2 kids. Emma, now 6. Noah, now 4. My dad retired from his accounting firm the same year Noah was born. Those kids became his entire world. He drove to Rebecca's house in Beaverton 4 times a week. He built Emma a playhouse. He read Noah the same dinosaur book 53 times because Noah screamed if he skipped pages. Rebecca noticed. She noticed the way you notice a button you can press. The first time she used the kids as leverage was over Christmas eating. Rebecca wanted the head of the table. My dad gave it to her. The second time was about a family photo. Rebecca wanted it retaken without me in it because my outfit clashed. My dad asked me to step out of frame. The third time I heard myself.
Speakerphone.
Dad did not know I was in the kitchen. If you walk her, I am not bringing the kids to Mom's birthday. Rebecca's voice.
Come.
Practiced. Dad, I cannot handle that right now. You know what I am going through. Silence. Then my dad's voice, quieter. Okay, Becca. I understand. That was 2 years ago. I stopped going to family dinners after that. I told them I was busy with work. They did not ask what work. They never asked about my work. I met Daniel Carver 3 years ago at a gallery opening in Portland. He was a structural architect. I was showing a series called Foundations, Portraits of Construction Workers. He stood in front of one drawing for 11 minutes. I timed it. When he finally moved, I walked over. What did you see? I asked. My dad, he said. He was a union carpenter for 40 years. That is exactly how he stood. Our first date was a coffee shop that turned into a 6-hour conversation about buildings and art and how both require someone to care about the details no one sees. He introduced me to his dad 2 weeks later. Frank Carver, 68 years old, retired union carpenter, hands like old leather. He lived alone in the same house he built with Daniel's mother, who died of a stroke 6 years earlier. Frank had a workshop in the garage. Sawdust on every surface. A radio permanently tuned to classic rock that I am not sure he ever turned off. Frank called me Nat by week 2. By month 3, he had built me an easel. Maple. Adjustable height. Brass hardware. He carved a small flower into the base. A daisy. My favorite. You have got paint under your nails, he said the first time he visited my studio.
Good.
Means you made something today. Nobody in my family had ever said that to me. Daniel proposed in the sculpture garden I had sketched for the city of Portland. It was a September evening. The light was turning gold. He got down on one knee next to the bronze bench I had helped design. I said yes before he finished asking. That night, I called my parents. My dad answered on the 5th ring. I told him. Silence. 3 seconds. Then, congratulations. Not I am so happy for you. Not tell me everything. Just the word you say when a coworker gets promoted. My mom took the phone. What does his family do? Not are you happy? Not what does he do? What does his family do? His dad is a retired carpenter, I said. Silence. The kind where someone is deciding not to say what they are thinking. I designed the wedding invitations myself. Watercolor florals. Hand lettering. I drove them to my parents' house and left them in the mailbox because I did not want to see their faces when they opened it. 2 weeks later, I called my dad. I asked him to walk me down the aisle.
He said yes. Quickly.
Like someone agreeing to hold a door. Not because they want to, because it is expected. Daniel said what he always says when I give my family chances they have not earned. You know who they are, Nat.
I know.
But I wanted to try one more time. He kissed my forehead. He never tells me what to do with my family. He just makes sure I have somewhere soft to land when they let me down. The call came on a Thursday night, 72 hours before the wedding. I was folding programs. 186 done. 14 left to go. The playlist was playing something with a piano, and I was humming along when the phone buzzed.
Dad.
I picked up, balanced the phone between my shoulder and ear. Natalie, I need to tell you something. His voice was flat, professional, the voice he used when he was about to deliver bad news to a client. I can't walk you down the aisle. I stopped folding, set the program down. The crease was perfect. Rebecca says it would be too much for her right now. Her marriage is struggling. Colin moved out last month. She says seeing me walk you would be painful.
Dad.
Rebecca is not getting married.
I am.
She is barely holding it together, Natalie. And she needs me that day. She is bringing the kids to the house. I told her I would be there. So you are choosing her Sunday brunch over my wedding. Silence. Did she threaten you with the kids again? More silence. Then his voice dropped. She said if I walk you, she will not let me see Emma and Noah anymore. There it was. The same lever she had been pulling for years. Okay, Dad. Natalie, please understand. I hung up, set the phone on the coffee table, finished folding the last 14 programs. My hands did not shake. Shaking would have meant I was surprised. I was not surprised. I was just done. My mother called 15 minutes later. Right on schedule. Your father told you.
Yes.
Natalie, do not blow this out of proportion. Walk yourself. Lots of modern brides do it. It is actually very empowering. She said empowering the way someone says gluten-free when they eat gluten. Mom, I asked him a year ago. Things change. Rebecca needs support. You have Daniel. She has no one. I almost laughed. Because the math was so perfectly, Mom. Rebecca's pain mattered more. Not because it was bigger. Because it was hers. Do not make this harder than it needs to be. I hung up, walked to the studio, sat on the stool in front of the easel Frank built, ran my fingers over the carved daisy at the base, traced it twice. Then I called Daniel. He answered on the first ring.
My dad backed out.
I know. I heard your voice through the wall. He did not say I told you so. He just said, what do you want to do? That is Daniel. He does not fix. He stands beside you and asks what you need. I do not want to walk alone. Then you will not.
Pause.
Dad has been practicing his tie knot since we got engaged. He YouTubed it 4 times last week. I smiled. First time in an hour. I cannot ask Frank to do that. It is too much. Nat, that man built you an easel he did not have to build. He shows up to your studio every Saturday to fix things you did not ask him to fix. He has had a place set for you at Sunday dinner for 2 years. He has been waiting. He just did not want to overstep. Something cracked open in my chest.
Warm.
Not pain. Okay, I said. I will ask him tomorrow. Friday morning, I drove to Frank's house. He was in the garage sanding a rocking chair. Cherry wood. Beautiful grain. When I walked in, he looked up, set the sandpaper down immediately. Hey, Nat Coffee is inside. Frank. I stayed in the doorway. He must have heard something in my voice because he turned fully toward me, wiped his hands on his apron. My dad backed out of walking me.
He did not ask why.
Did not shake his head. Did not offer commentary. Just looked at me with those steady gray eyes and said 4 words. When do you need me? Sunday. 2 o'clock, I will be there at noon. He picked up the sandpaper. Started sanding again. Then quieter. Nat, I have been hoping someone would ask. I cried in the car.
First time all week. Sunday.
The chapel was full. 175 people. Daniel's side was packed. My side was smaller but not empty. Mrs. Holloway, my high school art teacher. 3 clients who had become friends. A professor from art school. 7 women from the portrait workshop I taught on Saturday mornings. And in the back row, far right, my parents. Rebecca. They came. Not to celebrate. To say they were there. Frank arrived at noon in a new charcoal suit. Daniel had taken him shopping Friday night. Frank's rough hands stuck out of the pressed cuffs like they did not quite belong. He held a small wooden box. Inside, a boutonniere. Dried wildflowers and a sprig of rosemary tied with twine. Made it this morning, he said. Store flowers did not feel right for you. I pinned it to his lapel. The wildflowers were from his garden. The same garden where we had Sunday dinners.
You look strong, he said.
Not beautiful. Strong. It was exactly the right word. At 2 o'clock, the music started. The doors opened. 175 people turned. Frank stood beside me.
Steady. Come.
He offered his arm. Ready, Nat? I am ready. We walked. I did not look at the back row. I looked at Daniel. At Mrs. Holloway dabbing her eyes in the 3rd row. At the people who had shown up. When we reached the altar, the officiant asked, who gives this woman in marriage? Frank cleared his throat. Her family does. All of us who showed up. The room exhaled. Someone sobbed softly. Daniel's aunt. Mrs. Holloway pressed a tissue to her face. Frank placed my hand in Daniel's. Stepped back. sat in the front row in the seat labeled with his name. Daniel mouthed 2 words to his dad. "Thank you." Frank nodded, folded his hands. I noticed sawdust on his right cuff. We were married at 2:34. If you have ever found family outside of blood, someone who showed up when the people who should have did not, hit subscribe and stay with me because what happened after the ceremony is something I carry with me every single day. The reception was in the same chapel hall. Round tables with white linens. Centerpieces I had painted myself. Watercolor florals on small canvases. The band played something acoustic and warm.
People danced.
Mrs. Holloway cried during the first dance. One of my workshop students recorded it on her phone and later sent it to me with a message that said, "This is what love looks like." At 4:30, Frank stood up for his toast. The room went quiet the way rooms do when they sense something real is about to be said. "I'm going to keep this short," Frank said, "because Daniel told me if I talk for more than 2 minutes, he will personally unplug the microphone." Light laughter. The first time Natalie came to Sunday dinner, I had a cactus on the windowsill. It was dying. I did not think you could kill a cactus, but I was managing it. She walked in, looked at it, and within 5 minutes she had moved it to a different spot and told me I was overwatering.
He paused.
Looked at me. I knew then that any woman who saves a dying plant without being asked is the kind of woman who sees what needs love and does not wait for permission to give it. Silence. Then the room erupted. Applause that felt like a wave. Mrs. Holloway stood and clapped until her hands were red. I saw tears on Daniel's face. Frank sat down, adjusted his tie, and took a sip of water like he had not just said the most beautiful thing anyone had said about me in 29 years. My father found me at the cake table 20 minutes later. I was cutting slices for the dessert line when I felt someone step close on my left. I knew it was him before I turned. He still wore the same cologne. Spice and wood. The same one from every childhood memory. Natalie. I turned. He was holding a glass of water. Not champagne. His eyes were red at the edges. That man.
He paused. Frank.
He did well up there.
He did.
My father looked at the cake. At the table. At everything except my face. I wanted to say I am sorry. I looked at him. Not with anger. Not with longing. Just with a clear, flat gaze of someone who has spent 29 years being disappointed by the same person.
Sorry you missed it, I said.
Or sorry everyone saw. He flinched. Small. The kind of flinch that only happens when someone says aloud the thing you have been thinking in private. Before he could answer, my mother appeared. Hand on his elbow, guiding him like she always does. "Richard, come sit down." She leaned toward me, voice low. "Do not make a scene, Natalie." I picked up the cake server. Set a slice on a plate. "I am not making a scene, Mom. I am serving cake." She walked away. My father followed. He always follows. Rebecca did not approach me. She sat at a corner table with Emma and Noah. Colin was not there. "Work trip," she told my mother. But her hands shook when she poured water for the kids. The same shake I saw at Thanksgiving 2 years ago when Lily asked why Daddy slept in the office. I did not go to her. I did not send someone to check on her. I kept serving cake. Some people build walls to protect themselves. Others build walls to keep you responsible for their pain. I was done being responsible. I did not see my parents leave. Daniel's cousin told me later they slipped out around 6 o'clock. Between the cake cutting and the bouquet toss. The way you leave a party you were never really at. The drive home for my parents was 45 minutes. I heard later from Mrs. Holloway, who somehow knew everything, that they did not speak for the first 30. Then my father said something. "That man built her an easel." My mother looked at him.
"What?"
"In her studio. Maple. With a flower carved in the base." My mother stared at the road. My father's voice again. "When was the last time we built her anything, Linda?" Silence. The kind that sits heavy.
"She did not look at me," my father said.
When she walked down the aisle. Not once. She was looking at Daniel. At everyone else.
But not at me. And she was right not to.
My mother said nothing. They pulled into the driveway. My mother went inside. My father sat in the car. The garage light was on. He could see the old shelf where my art supplies used to sit before I moved them to the studio. The the shelf he built when I was 12. Before Rebecca's engagement. Before the campus tours. Before the grandchildren. He checked his phone. No message from me. No message coming. The wedding was over. His daughter was married. And a carpenter had done what he was supposed to do. He went inside, closed the door behind him. The house was quiet. It had been quiet for a long time. Monday morning, I opened my studio at 8. New commission on the desk. A portrait series for the Children's Hospital. Healing spaces. Art for kids in recovery. I sketched the first piece by 10. Soft lines. A child holding a flower. My phone buzzed at noon. One text from my dad.
Can we talk?
I read it. Set the phone face down on the drafting table. Picked up my pencil.
Continued sketching.
Outside, the October sun moved across my studio window. It caught the carved daisy on the easel Frank built. Small enough to miss. Deep enough to last. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. My father's penmanship. Small. Tilted. The kind they taught in schools that used fountain pens. Natalie, I should have been there. I chose wrong. I have been choosing wrong your whole life. I told myself it was easier to keep the peace. It was not easier. It was cowardly. I let Rebecca use those kids as a wall between us. I let your mother convince me that supporting you meant less drama. It did not. It just meant you learned to stop asking. Frank earned what I threw away. He showed up. I did not. I do not expect you to forgive me. But I want you to know I am proud of you. I always was. I was just too weak to say it out loud. The ribbon from your art competition is still in my desk drawer. I kept it. I do not know why I never told you that. Dad. I read it 3 times. Folded it carefully. Placed it in my desk drawer next to the scholarship letter from art school. Next to the acceptance letter to Pacific Northwest College of Art. Next to the first commission check I ever earned. 2 different kinds of validation. One I built myself. One that came 13 years too late. I did not reply. Some apologies are not invitations to reconnect. They are confessions. Acknowledgements. The period at the end of a sentence that should have been written years ago. I let him have his period. But I did not reopen the paragraph. 3 weeks after the wedding, Rebecca called. I was mixing paint in the studio when her name appeared on my screen. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. But some part of me, the part that still remembered being her older sister, made me answer. Natalie.
Her voice was thin.
Tired. I heard. Colin filed for divorce last week. I set down my brush. I am sorry, Becca.
Pause.
Long enough that I thought the call had dropped. I should not have done that to you. The thing with Dad. I was scared. My marriage was falling apart, and I thought if I could just keep control of one thing, keep Mom and Dad focused on me, it would make me feel less like I was disappearing. Your wedding was not the thing to control.
No.
It was not. Silence. Then her voice cracked. Not performative.
Real.
I am sorry, Natalie. I do not know if that is enough. But I mean it. I sat with that. I did not rush to comfort her. I did not rush to forgive her. I just listened. Rebecca, I hope you find what you need. I mean that. But I cannot be your anchor while you are pulling me under. She cried. Quietly. I let her.
Then I said goodbye. Gently.
But finally, I hung up, went back to mixing paint. Titanium white.
Cadmium yellow.
A soft morning color. I had a portrait to finish. A commission. A child holding a daisy. The same daisy Frank carved into my easel. Some symbols repeat because they matter. I used to think family was the people you were born to, the ones who share your name, your blood, your history. I do not think that anymore. Family is the man who drives to your studio every Saturday to oil the hinges on your door. Family is the teacher who accepted your award when no one else showed up. Family is the friend who cries at your wedding because she knows how long you have waited to be seen. Family is not a contract you are born into. It is a table you build. And you decide who sits there. That is my story. 72 hours of silence. 1 letter I will never answer. And a carpenter who said yes before I finished asking. If this reminded you that love is something you choose, not something you owe, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below and tell me, who showed up for you when it mattered most. I read every single one. Thank you for being here.
See you in the next.